Hello everyone, and thanks for checking out my channel. This is the first video of my new channel dedicated to only blacksmithing, knife making, and in general making. Before I forget, please be so kind to leave a like and hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you'll be notified of any future videos as they're released. This is part one of the blacksmith style push dagger. I'm forging this out of a 80 CRV2. It's 3/16 thick by 1.5 inches wide. Here I'm forging in the corners and beginning to forge in the tip. I'm forging on a windy day in full sunlight, and the steel is not staying as hot as I'd like it for as long as I'd like it. I can generally forge in a tip within 2 or 3 heats, and as you can see, it's taking several more than that. Also, because I'm forging in bright daylight, the steel looks a lot colder when it turns black than it actually is. If I was forging this at nighttime, you would still see a red glow where that is now looking black. Still very forgeable and workable, so I'm by no means forging cold. I'm going to give a quick plug about the hammer I'm using. It's made by Wahlberg Forge. You should check him out on Instagram. He makes some really good hammers. That's a 3.5 pound rounding hammer I'm using. He also makes a lot of blacksmithing tools and tongs, and right now he's having a 20% off sale for everything, so check him out. So as I get closer to refining the point of the tip, you'll notice that I'm working on the far side of the anvil, and I'm also elevating my arm, my holding arm up, so that way I don't cause the tip to go crooked, as this is going to be a dagger, so I want the point to be in the center. If I was forging a Bowie style knife or a regular a knife other than a dagger, then I would only forge one corner and not have the tip. The tip would only be on one side. But here I'm starting to define where I want the handle to begin. So I'm doing half face blows, half on, half off the anvil with half on, half off of the hammer. I'm also trying to keep track of the folding over of the steel, because I'm trying to make that thin half. I'm trying to draw it out widthwise just a little bit. I want it to be about a 1/2 inch, between the 1/2 inch to a 5/8 inch wide, just for comfort. One thing to note also, steel will change sound while you're working it, when it's cold versus when it's hot. It'll go from a dull thud to a high-pitched tingy noise, and that's kind of a telltale sign of when you should heat that steel back up. If it's sounding too pingy, too tingy, too high-pitched, it's too cold. So here I put in a Hardy tool that's a fuller to try and define that transition from the blade to the handle, although it didn't work out too well because the round bar that I had welded on the inside of that tool is too small, so it wasn't doing much good at all. You notice I'm concentrating on the one side that looks like it has a little sharper transition, and that's because that's where I plan to have the end of the handle. So I'm gonna have the end part rounded over, almost as a finger guard, and the other side's gonna stay round, more round. At least that was my intention at the beginning. Here now you see I'm using a cross-peen hammer to try and define that transition again. It worked well, almost a little too well, as it was making too drastic of a transition there. So later on I'll switch to a different hammer and it'll work out better. So here you see I'm using my 2.5 pound rounding hammer in the same method I used the cross peen, and that's just softening that edge up a little bit, that transition section, which worked out a lot better for what I was trying to do. And we're getting to the end, and I'll show you what it looks like so far. And again, I hope you like, subscribe, feel free to leave a comment, and don't forget that notification button. Thanks again.